It's Friday, and this is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my. It's Friday for me. I'm not here tomorrow, so it's Thursday, guys. But my Friday. Oh man, wishful thinking. Co-host Emily Campagno, also joining us, Kennedy, Michelle Tafoya, and Sean Duffy. We now know the day. It's been a long election week. Control of Congress still hangs in the balance. More than 36 seats are left in play. Republicans appear to be headed for a narrow majority there, but it's still way too close to call, while the Senate hinges on just 3 races. We are waiting to hear on Arizona, waiting to hear on Nevada, too close to call at this moment. But in the state of Georgia, they are heading to a runoff election. That means that Georgia could once again decide which party controls the Senate. Does it sound familiar? It should, because it happened just 2 years ago. The one thing Americans do agree on, the country is heading in the wrong direction, but the president says he's not going to change anything going forward.
We had an election yesterday, and it was a good day, I think, for democracy. And I think it was a good day for America. While we don't know all the results yet, at least I don't know them all yet, here's what we do know. While the press and the pundits are predicting a giant red wave, it didn't happen. While any seat lost is painful, some good Democrats didn't win the last night. Democrats had a strong night. And we lost fewer seats in the House of Representatives than any Democratic president's first midterm election in the last 40 years.
What in the next 2 years do you intend to do differently to change people's opinion of the direction of the country, particularly as you contemplate a run for president in 2024?
Nothing, because they're just finding out what we're doing.
Probably not the takeaway. You know, Sean, they did not get trounced. They did beat historical standards. I understand the cause for optimism among Democrats, but there should also be some introspection here. It doesn't appear that's the case. There was a call that Nancy Pelosi led with House Democrats, and it was interesting to me. This is according to Axios, with the head of the DCCC who lost his seat, Sean Patrick Maloney, first time in 42 years. But this was interesting. She struck a highly positive tone about the results, according to multiple aides and members on the call. She said it is a remarkable achievement what all of us did working together. She said, and she called Democrats courageous and having the stamina to get the job done. No introspection, in other words, whatsoever.
So first off, the election results gives Democrats cause for celebration. I mean, they did way better than I would have ever anticipated. And I don't think we quite know why they did so well, because the issue set that Americans are feeling right now doesn't tend to, benefit Democrats in the election. But I look at humility, Kayleigh. I mean, you have a 40% approval rating. People can't afford gas, groceries. They can't afford heating oil coming up. I mean, the border's open. Crime is rampant. And you should look at that and say, you know what? I care about America. I care about my people, and I'm going to change course to make sure I fix these problems that they face. But this guy goes, I did well on Tuesday night. I'm not changing a darn thing. Not only that, I'm going to give you more of it. You get more of what I gave you, not less.
Right. And Zeke Miller at the Associated Press, who asked the first question to Joe Biden right out of the gate, I mean, he said 2/3 of the country says we are heading in the wrong direction, to which the president responded he's not changing anything. It's striking. And Gloria Borger over at CNN had a really clear-eyed look, and she was rather critical of the president. Let's listen to what she had to say.
When he was asked, would you change anything?
Right. Yeah.
He said, no. Now you have 75% of the country saying that we're headed in the wrong direction. He said he just wouldn't do anything different because, of course, our achievements take a long time to be recognized. That's insulting people.
Harsh words, but very true.
That's right. Remember in law school, I don't know if you guys at Harvard had the same saying we did, but it was C equals JD, right? All you needed to do was pass your class and you would get that Juris Doctorate. And I feel to your point that that's what the Democrats' takeaway was from 2 days ago, rather than the opportunity for introspection and why was it so close. They're like, yes, awesome, we nailed it. Instead of seeing the fact that 50% of voters, and when they were exiting, said that inflation in the economy was a primary factor. A lot of it had to do with the emphasis and priorities of the issues. It didn't lessen the importance of those issues to Americans, and especially in state by state like Pennsylvania, where the energy played a tremendous factor. So I think it really begs the question, will the Democratic Party in any way start listening, starting with the president, start listening to the voters, especially now with House likely in control by the GOP. That means that, to your words the other day, his agenda will likely grind to a halt. And what else then will they have to show for the next 2 years?
And his approval rating, Kennedy, is at a paltry 41%. And this is a very stubborn president. We know with Afghanistan, his generals said, hey, don't pull out quite as quickly, leave a stay-behind force. He didn't listen. We saw what happened. So it was interesting. I felt that this election meant he's definitely running in 2024. There's no getting him out. This is a stubborn president who's going to run. And he addressed that yesterday. So let's listen to what he had to say.
The Democratic Party outperformed anything anyone expected and did better than any off-year presidency since John Kennedy, is one that gives everybody like, whew, sigh of relief that the mega Republicans are not taking over the government again, et cetera. And so my judgment of running when I announce, if I announce, my intention is that I run again, but I'm a great respecter of fate, and this is ultimately a family decision.
And he said he wants to sneak away between Christmas and New Year's with Jill. I'm like, you don't do much sneaking. You go to Delaware every weekend. It's pretty open.
There's no sneaking.
Yeah.
No, he's out in the open, actually not working very much at all, especially on the weekends. And it's interesting because we don't have visitor logs when he takes those little weekend jaunts to Delaware. There's not enough transparency in this administration, and there's not enough acknowledgement. You know, people didn't give a mandate to either party in this election because they're incredibly frustrated. And it would be nice if Democrats, while they maintain this power until at least the House numbers get settled, if they would acknowledge that, yes, people are in pain, but playing the long game, it's like having your house ravaged by termites and ghosts. And, you know, a plumbing company coming in and saying, yes, but we just put all new piping underneath the house. And it's like, well, yes, but my house is being eaten alive by bugs and I'm being haunted. And they don't acknowledge that. And so they're doing things, you know, to look busy that people can't see, that don't affect their lives positively. But all this stuff that they feel every day negatively in the short term, in the immediate, you know, whether it's inflation or crime or, you know, a cratering economy and a looming recession, they don't even talk about that. And they act as though not getting clobbered and destroyed is a mandate. I don't want to live in a mediocre country where meh is good enough. That is not good. I want great. I want excellent.
It's a great, but they did not run on any of their issues.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to continue more of the same. Well, if you think America loved it, why didn't you run on those issues? You ran on abortion and, you know, MAGA Republicans.
And I mean, it was not a good night when you are potentially, it looks like, on the verge of losing the House of Representatives. So talking about your house, I mean, you might lose your house, and a win, you know, is a win at the end of the day.
I think what Joe Biden continues to demonstrate is that he's arrogant, plain and simple. I don't have to change anything because we're okay. He was arrogant when he said no one F's with a Biden down in Miami. He was arrogant when he called Peter Doocy a stupid SOB. He was arrogant when he said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you're not empathetic. You sold yourself as an empathetic character, but you're not when you go to comfort people who have lost others. You tell them about your own loss instead of listening to them about their losses. So people got duped thinking nice old Uncle Joe was empathetic. He's not feeling any of these problems that the rest of the country is feeling, and therefore he doesn't feel he needs to change course. And he will not take that honest look at what everyone else is going through and adjust accordingly.
No, and instead he leans into the microphone and says, watch me.
Watch me.
You know, when he's told
So
two-thirds
creepy.
of the country don't support his agenda. And by the way, CNN and NBC, Emily, two-thirds of the country don't want him to run. That is a very pointed shot at the sitting president and his job and what he is doing.
That's right. And it's interesting as well that a lot of the mainstream media outlets have started ranking and assessing the candidates that would actually take his place. And that they specifically say, look, here are the pros and cons. Watch for Buttigieg. Watch for people who, like Kamala, who have, these are their chances. These are why. That's not something that you would usually do with a sitting president so early on. And I also think that, to note, some of their heaviest emphases and the points that they point to are the just add water effect. Who, if you just add water to, would be a strong candidate because they feel that he will stubbornly and arrogantly hang on until the last minute. So everyone assumes that they're supporting him, but then just kidding, who do we replace? That would be a strong candidate.
You cannot take the keys away from Grandpa. Grandpa's not going to give him up.
Grandpa can't drive anymore.
He's going to force
Grandpa,
the keys out of his
he
death
can't
grip.
drive anymore.
Grandpa has neuropathy and an addiction to NyQuil. Not the president, but just like the hypothetical grandpa.
Grandpa's going to get a primary challenger, much like Carter and Ford did when you look at his approval ratings. And to your point, there's a lot of ankle biters out there like Gavin Newsom who are chomping at his heels.